Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Spider Sound Off. This is Tom.
And this is Porter.
We are back in Henrico Studios together. We have a interview we'll be doing in a bit with Coach Roussell from
for Coach Roussell.
From the women's team. So that'll be a great interview.
The 25-6 women's team.
Yeah, had a nice win at St. Joe's. The men did not have a nice win in Chicago against Loyola. We're not going to spend too much time on that because
Loyola got their 7th win of the season.
Yes,
7.
And they're third in the Atlantic 10.
All as good as 7.
Yes. So anyway, we don't want to get all upset and mad and then have to jump right to talking to Coach Roussell and be all excited.
There was a big win last night, though. Can we talk about that for a second?
There was a big win last night.
So Tom was up in Northern Virginia for a regional a cappella competition. And
not performing in it. I was
not in it. Not in it. By the way, Tom's never seen Pitch Perfect 2. His daughter sings a cappella for the JMU Purple Rain squad, and he's never seen Pitch Perfect 2 or Pitch Perfect 1 for that matter.
No, I have not.
That's just what's up with that?
But they were at the quarterfinals. This is like real life Pitch Perfect. They were up at Oakton High School in Vienna, and they were the champs.
Gold medal.
I think there were 9 total
gold
acapella groups there. Ellie and her friend Jalen, they also did the choreography for their show, and they won best choreography. So they got a nice certificate.
I'm wondering if we could get the JMU Purple Rain squad to sing the Spider Sound Off intro song for us. So that could become our new.
Well, I don't know if we can get them to do it, but I can get AI to do it. So maybe we'll wrap this episode up with a little acapella version of Spider Song.
Well, congrats to your daughter, Ellie.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, they go to the semifinals in Delaware in a few weeks, and you win that, and then you go to New York City for the big finals.
Wow.
But I mean, I think they're just super excited right now. So that was fun.
# winning.
Yeah, that's right.
You know.
But anyway, we got.
Hopefully, they don't come across Das Sound Machine.
I don't know who that is.
Well, you should know who Das Sound Machine is. I guarantee our listeners know who Das Sound Machine is.
Okay, Porter likes acapella way too much. Okay, so we will have Coach on in a second. If you want to hear a whole lot about the men's team, that won't happen today. We're still sad, but hey, on Thursday, the next time we record, we'll have a little more on the women's tournament, and we'll also have to focus on the men at some point. But until then, we've got Coach Roussell. I hope you enjoy that interview, and we will catch you next time.
Well, good morning and welcome to Coach Aaron Roussell from the Richmond Spiders women's team. Coach, congratulations on the big win against St. Joe's yesterday.
Thank you. Appreciate it. As we were just saying, it's March now, so any win is a big win, and obviously good to get back on track a little bit this past week and head into the big tournament here this weekend with hopefully some momentum.
You know, I think, Coach, this might be a big deal for you because I think you're the only 2-time interviewee on Spider Sound Off so far in this year. So what an honor.
Look at that. Look at that. We had so much fun that first time. And first off, obviously, really appreciate what you guys are doing to kind of get our program out there, get Richmond out there. It always seems when I'm able to listen, you guys are having a lot of fun with it. So hopefully you're enjoying it, but it is a service to our program and to Richmond Spiders everywhere. So thank you.
Thank you, Coach. We're enjoying doing it, and we're meeting some fun people along the way. And I mean, obviously, when you're 25-6 and 37 in the net, and this is back-to-back years, you've put together an elite performance. It makes it a lot easier to talk about things day in and day out. So we appreciate you and all you're doing for Richmond Spider basketball. Question for you. So, you're in Philadelphia yesterday, obviously back in the RVA today. This is Sunday. We're recording, releasing on Monday. How does the travel work for a game like that? Do you fly back immediately after the game? Do you give a couple hours for the kids? I mean, how does that work?
Yeah. Well, first off, normally I'm going to be embarrassed to say this, but been very fortunate with resources here and how our administration's taking care of us. I think we prioritized this trip just to get us back and kind of have a day last night and have a day today. So we did fly. We had 2 kids that had class on Friday until 5:00. So that kind of threw some things off with being able to drive and obviously getting up there too late. So we did fly up there and then flew back last night. We did have some delays. So all of a sudden you look down at the clock. By the time you get back to RVA, you're like, let's not do the math of what it would look like if we would have just taken the bus.
Yeah.
But a lot of comfort there. We had a little bit extra time with the delay to go grab an extra cheesesteak. My son and I grabbed some ice cream. Again, obviously you're in Philadelphia, and I think a lot of us have connections there, but one pretty big important connection is Maggie Doogan. So everybody kept asking, when are we leaving? When are we leaving? I kept saying, I don't know, whenever Doogan tells us to. There was a cavalcade of young folks there for Maggie. There was media there for Maggie, obviously her family. So a really cool moment for her to play well in her last regular season A-10 game. But the crowd that she had up there was pretty fun to watch and pretty cool to see.
Speaking of Maggie, it's her, as you mentioned, her last regular season game. She's playing in front of her home crowd. I think the announcer on the TV broadcast said there was like 40 plus family members at the game for her. When she puts up a dominant performance like that, 35 points in front of her home crowd, as a coach, I mean, how sentimental can you be in that moment versus like, you know what, we got business to take care of, getting ready, for the tournament. Like, I mean, it's kind of a special moment, but at the same time, you're playing a very good team on the road, and I mean, can you soak it in as a coach and just say, as a fan, say, wow, this is special?
Well, yeah, I mean, these kids mean the world to you, right? So, obviously we had a moment this earlier this year with Jada playing against her sister, and you wanted that to go really well. Maggie, not lost on me every time that we play a Philadelphia school. One, that she chose to come here over Richmond. There's a lot of Philly kids that don't. I give a lot of Philly AAU coaches a hard time about them not leaving town. Thankfully, we did with Maggie. So Maggie would be the first to tell you, first and foremost, we had to get the win. We had to get the win. We had to get the win. You love these kids, so you want them to play well and have have that shine, have that moment for themselves. But we're so spoiled that like it was such an efficient performance from Maggie yesterday that it didn't feel so like over the top. I think I looked up once and it's like, oh wow, that's impressive. High 20s, and then with some free throws. But would she have 35 points on 16 shots, something like that?
Yeah.
Like the efficiency that she's had this year is just been absurd. And I think maybe we've talked about this, but even some of the games that people aren't the all-American numbers and draft pick numbers, and you're like, yeah, she completely dominated a game. She had 38. What was she? A plus 38 in 30 minutes in the Rhode Island game.
Rhode Island, yeah.
She's just doing it so efficiently. She's doing it the right way. She's including her teammates. I think we've talked about this with some others, but I think the only time that she's complained about her role is a game that she took 19 shots, and she was in my office complaining that she took too many shots that game. So
Yeah.
just a special player, and we've got a special group, and that's hopefully why we can finish this off in a positive way.
I'm curious. Like I think we look back on this year, like offense really hasn't been the issue. Now you had a couple, this tough road trip where offense was an issue, but in general, it's like how to get the defense to be better and better and better. And so St. Joe's game and holding them to 61 points. Also, we've noticed in the last month or so, a little more zone getting kind of thrown in there after a timeout or after out of bounds. Like, is that something that maybe I just haven't noticed you've been doing all year and it's just been more noticeable lately? Or is that a new wrinkle you've been working on in practice and started throwing into games?
Yeah, it's something we've been doing all year. I think we've gotten a little bit better at it. I think we've understood it and fine-tuned a couple things and maybe felt a little more comfortable in certain matchups. I always say, you get to a certain time of year, a baseball analogy, you got to have a curveball. You got to have a curveball that you can throw in there. And I think for us, sometimes, there's different reasons, right? Hey, penetration this. Hey, this is a good matchup. Foul trouble. Hey, we got to hide somebody right now. We feel like we can do this. So I think it's a strategic thing. Obviously sometimes, timeouts are a reason to hold a run that somebody else is on. Sometimes just throwing that curveball in there. Sometimes throwing the curveball in the dirt. Sometimes, the George Washington game, we started pressing. Like we hadn't done that. That was just something that like, hey, can we mix this up a little bit and do something different? I think we picked up and pressured a little bit yesterday, more than we probably had planned. But just something to get our guys going, something to get you, maybe back on your heels a little bit, change the rhythm of a game. That's really what it's been for us, and I think we've gotten a lot better at it. But I also think we've gotten better defensively over the season, which has probably been the biggest improvement that you've seen from our program.
Late in that game against St. Joe's, it was a kind of a very subtle moment, but they got a breakaway where they had numbers in their favor, and Alicia Newell casually fouled the girl who's going down the court. It was only our third foul, so they weren't going to the line. It just allowed our defense to reset. And I thought for a second about it, and it seems to me like you have a way of recruiting headsy players who are smart about the game of basketball, because that won't show up on a stat sheet, but like,
Right.
you're just thinking about the defensive reset to give you the best chance of reducing their point total or reducing their ability to score. And you think about Sweeney, who's like having a second coach on the floor, and Maggie, who's a third coach on the floor, and how cerebral Rachel is. Like, is that an intentional strategy of yours to recruit really smart basketball players, or is that something that you kind of teach through your system?
Maybe a little bit of both. I think the feel for the game is something that we've really talked about a lot more as a staff. And I think that's something that can be taught, but a little bit harder. So, you always look athleticism, length, can you shoot the basketball, things that we've always looked for. But sometimes just that feel for a game, your ability to pass. You watch us play, the ball's in Maggie's hands because she's a great player, but just positionally, the ball was in her hands, the ball's in Addie's hands, the ball's in Tiara's hands. We have quarterbacks, but sometimes I always tell our post players, you're the quarterback too. Use a Tom Brady analogy, use different analogies with that. So I think you need to have a certain feel of the game. It is something that we look for. The moment you're talking about, I think we had third quarter yesterday. I mean, I think we put them at the line 11 times. I'm like, most games, we're not putting people at the line 11 total. So going back to your point, when you're a team that doesn't foul a lot, I think you can use those take fouls a little strategically. And I think that is something that we've done a little bit this year of, I think I said it yesterday. Hey, Maggie, you can't. I think she had 3 or 4 fouls at that point. It's like, you can't take one. But the rest of us know that we've got one to give. And at that point, I think we had 2 to give. So, yeah, it is something that we use. And I think there's some nuances that we talk about. I think there was another one yesterday of a 2-for-1 that we negated a 2-for-1 for St. Joe's just for letting the ball bounce a little bit and not inbounding it right away. Small things like that we do talk about that our kids, I think, enjoy and do pick up on.
That's awesome.
So looking back to kind of maybe this season, the last season, obviously you've had a lot of success, NCAA tournaments. Like, when you set your goals for the season, like, do you have like your own personal goals and kind of then you talk to the team about their goals, or how does that all come about when you're like in the summer getting a new team together?
Yeah. We don't have those goal meetings. It never did. Now we'd all be crazy. I think fans, players, coaching staff alike, that like, yeah, in the off season, we got to get better. We got to get better because we're trying to get to a Sweet 16. We got to get the NCAA tournament. We got to win a championship. I think that's probably the emptiness that maybe I've had in the last 24 hours is like, I've really prided myself that, the 3 situations I've taken over, it's been rebuild, right? And so I've always told the AD for, I guess, the last 2 jobs. It's been the same AD at different jobs,
right,
of like, hey man, start judging us on year 4. Year 4, we're going to start. The goal is to win championships. And so, yes, we want to win a championship every single year. Is that something that's realistic? Maybe not. But I think that once we've established the program, winning a championship is always the goal. Again, a little bit of an emptiness yesterday when you're watching a couple other teams, deservedly so, have their shine. But yeah, I mean, I think once you're not coming to this program to not make an NCAA tournament run. Maggie Doogan, Rachel, Sweeney, they didn't come back to just hang out, right? They're working hard, and then you look, and I'm on the opposite end of Ava, Rain, some of the other friends. You don't come to this program if it's not winning a championship isn't high on your priority list. So it is something we talk about. But honestly, guys, once the season starts, we got to get better. We got to get better. And I think when we've been dealt, I've said this, talked about this situation a lot, but the locker room at Rhode Island on December 30th of, look, guys, we just got shown that we are not good enough. We're not good enough today. We were not good enough to be another team in our league. So we have got to get better. We've got to get better. And then, you look at it last week, I think we were top 20 in both over the last, since that game, we have been top 20 in rating of defensive rating and offensive rating in the country. And weirdly, defensive rating, I think we were top 10 in the country over the last 12 to 14 games. So that's a heck of a stride from, I think, a lot of coaches in our league that maybe didn't pay attention to our defense and didn't respect our defense. We've gotten better. And I think that's really the driving point for our program, is not necessarily championship talk once the season starts, just getting better and putting yourself in a good spot.
You mentioned the 3 freshmen. You've been playing the 3 freshmen together quite a bit now, and watching it as a fan, I don't see any real noticeable degradation. So the freshmen are no longer freshmen, in my opinions. Tell us a little bit about what you've seen about how the freshman class has evolved.
And that's exactly what I've said too. Like I when we've talked about it, there was a moment maybe once in each of the last couple of games. I'm like, oh my God, we have 3 freshmen out there, and it wasn't a scary thing. It was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I don't look at them as freshmen right now. They've been through the grind. They've put up with me, and I mean that in a way of like, I'm my relationship and the way I talk to Maggie, Rachel is going to be different than how I talk to our freshmen. You're trying to groom those freshmen. You're trying to toughen those freshmen up. How I talk to Maggie as a senior, how I talk to Maggie as a freshman are way different as well.
Sure.
So I mean this with all sincerity and love. Like, they've been through the grind. We put them through the grind as freshmen, and it's been some ups and downs and eye rolls and this guy's crazy. This guy's wrong. They've been through this, and I think you look at what Anisha, obviously people saw what she did against LaSalle last game, but that had been some growth moments throughout the year that she needed to kind of mature up. She needed to kind of go through some of that. She'd been having some really, really strong practices, and you saw the results there. You also look at, I'll jump around, but even with Allie Sweeney, like, I don't think our freshmen look at what Sweeney's done, and they don't realize that all of them have probably played more than what Allie did as a freshman. And so some of this is you're in a program where there's other really, really good players. Allie was behind Grace, but she was figuring some things out. It wasn't always smooth, but she was figuring things out. I think that's what you've seen with all of our freshmen, and even Shanika too. Like, Shanika is going to be really, really good. Maybe shame on me for not finding some more spots for her, but we have 3 senior post players right now that are really good that have been through this. And so that's a little bit of figuring things out as freshmen. And then it's not just for their sophomore and junior year. I think by the end of your freshman year, you're at a spot that really need to help, or really can help us. And if you look at the construction of this year's roster, they have to. We knew that as a staff. We knew these guys were going to have to grow up, and they were going to have to help us to make a run in March.
I loved during that Nisha game against LaSalle where she scored 20. There was a point, not when she got to 20, but on the way to 20, that I remember there was a big shot. Maybe there was a timeout or something, and Allie was on the bench, like, had this look of like, actually looked at one of the assistant coaches, was kind of like, I told you. And they fist bumped, like some version of like, I could tell she had seen this coming. Maybe not, 20 points was a bit of a surprise, but you could tell like the look on her face was like a little bit of like proud mama, like watching this freshman, like, have a game like that.
Yeah, and I think for all of us, right? And it's funny, I rewatched the game again last night. Obviously, now that we've got the LaSalle draw, watched that on the plane coming home last night, and yeah, she was in a zone, but kind of like what you said. I remember like Maggie like insisting on getting the ball to her. Like, that's a big growing up moment when your potential All-American is asking you to step up in a big time role and feeding you the ball in a big time moment. In that, I remember some of the crowd shots, watching it last night too. I'm sorry, bench shots, watching it last night too, of just how excited our players were for Anisha. Because one, again, we've all put in so much work and so much time into this, and when you see somebody get some credit, you see somebody get that feeling. We've all been there, right? When things are just clicking, and all of a sudden, all the stresses are left behind, all the work feels like it was worth it. So really a cool moment, and I think she's really carried that through. Since these other games too. Not just that she's played well, but I've been saying too, if you watch Allie, those minutes that she comes in after she's gotten a break, she's been fantastic, and that's probably something we didn't have a month ago.
Yeah, you knew Allie could play 40, but you don't want her to have to play 40, right?
Or 55.
Or 55, right? Against Davidson.
Right. Yeah.
Hey, question for you. So, going to your coaching influences, you've been extremely successful at Chicago, Bucknell, and here. Like, who in your life, and it could be somebody you know personally or somebody that you just admire, is your greatest coaching influence? Who's somebody who kind of you just said, I gotta do it like that, or that person taught me this?
Yeah. I had a great youth coach back in the day that since has passed, and I think that's a great influence. But it's interesting, right? Like, I got my first head coaching job at the age of 25. I got hired as an assistant in September. 2 weeks later, head coach says, "Hey, I'm leaving," and I thought I was out of a job. I didn't even know the AD. He came in. I remember he said, "Do you have a base on out of bounds play?" And I was like, "What are you talking about, pal?" He's like, "I don't know you, but we can't do a search." So my point is, like, I was 25. I was a head coach before I was really an assistant coach. I was a GA and had a great boss, and so I did learn a ton from her. but you start learning from your competitors. I think that's my biggest thing. When I was at University of Chicago, had a cool moment. We played St. Louis this year, about a month ago. Chicago and Wash U of St. Louis. Wash U of St. Louis was the dominant Division III power. They had 4 or 5 national titles. She's a legend. She's a Hall of Famer. And they were our rival. And here I was, like 25. I didn't know anything. And here's this legend on the other end. And so you just, out of fear of failure, I think, I just always watched her. I watched so much of some of those were VHS tapes, if you date ourselves here a little bit, of them. But I felt like I learned so much from our competitors, and some of that was scouting. I never felt like I was good enough. I still probably have that now, that like I feel like I need to watch more film and do more and work harder than everybody else, because just that fear of failure. And I still do now. Like, I still think there's coaches in our league. There's still coaches I've gone against that I'm like, hey, that coach is really good. So yeah, weirdly for me, I can't say it's been like I had a great boss as a GA, but a lot of this has been learning from your competitors. And we had a cool Division III group of coaches that back then that actually we were really close. And so anyway, going long-winded here, but Coach Nancy Fay at Wash U came back and talked with our team when we were at St. Louis a few weeks ago. And crazy story, but she's actually the coach at University of Illinois that recruited Sam Dewey. So when Sam was in the portal, all coming full circle, when Sam was in the portal, I remember calling Coach Fay and talking with her about Sam. She had recruited Sam to Illinois, but was not there when she coached her, or when Sam got there.
Speaking of learning from your adversaries, Tom rewatches all the Spider Sound Off episodes to see how I do it, and then he tries to do it himself. So I mean, we know what you're talking about, Coach.
It's amazing. It's like, what are we, like the average of the 4 or 5 people we're around the most? Here we are. Look how lucky you both are.
Right. I'm curious. You talk about the last. Your career at Richmond, at least, like over 4 years, thinking kind of of Maggie's 4 years, like the attendance at Richmond's gone from like 700-ish to 2,000. So one, how does that make you feel when we've got kind of the bigger crowds? But there's also, I think of goal. I remember when I saw that we were at 2,000, I'm like, oh, I wonder where that ranks. And there's still a lot of schools that get more than 2,000 at their game. So it's like, we can do even better. But how do you see that evolution to date, and like what do you think we could achieve in the future when it comes to kind of getting fans engaged?
One, I will say, well, I'll even back up. It's one of my biggest goals, I think I spoke openly about that when I first got here. Especially once we got good, once you felt good about the product that people were watching, you really wanted to get people here. But that's been a goal of mine, really everywhere I've been. I know winning is important, all of these things. This was before NIL and making it like revenue generation. I just wanted to create atmosphere. Like that's just, I wasn't a great player, but I loved college basketball. Like going to a college basketball game was like the coolest thing in the world. I think my son probably feels that right now. So that was always a driving goal. It's something we've worked at. I say in women's basketball, like your head coach has to be also like the head of your marketing, or at least a big part of the marketing drive. We have a great marketing staff here. Sometimes I think I drive them nuts because I'm constantly coming up with crazy minor league ideas. I've gotten really close with Parney over there at the Flying Squirrels, and just try to pick his brain all the time because sometimes I just feel like it's like minor league baseball, right? You got to come up with some different things. But I think the biggest driver for us has just been how involved our team has been with our fans. You see this after games, that it's a party, right? Like, what am I going to say to our team in the locker room other than something I'm going to have to apologize for the next day because I saw it wrong on film, and so I think that's a good draw for our players too, of just getting to be a big part of the Richmond community. The fans have been awesome. I mean, again, what have we won? 32 home A-10 games in a row, something like that. Like, a huge part of that is the atmosphere that we have at the Robbins Center and at the Henrico Center, which hopefully we'll talk about here. But we said the disappointment of not getting the 1 seed and maybe even 2 seed. The positive here is a 3 seed, 7:30. Man, we got a Friday night party this week. Let's go.
Obstacles to getting out on Friday night at 7:30. Just to finish up on that thought, though, I mean, I've hung around after the game, the last 2 home games that you played in the Robbins Center, just mainly to take it all in, because it's sort of the end of the era for some great players. And I'm just so impressed by how you and the rest of the team just network with all of the fans, just to make them feel like, hey, we really appreciate you. That's just a difference I've seen in the women's game that I really do appreciate as a fan, just to see how hard you guys work to build that kind of loyalty and camaraderie with the fan base.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And again, it is something we take a lot of pride in. And the fact that I think the last 4 games, we literally have had a security detail for Maggie and for Rachel.
Yeah.
I mean, we're at women's basketball, right? We're at women's basketball at the University of Richmond. They literally have a security detail the second that the thing ends because they are being mobbed. And, God bless Maggie. She handles this so well. People have no idea how well she handles it. And again, not sentimental. People have no idea the garbage that she puts up with too. We all see the positive, and that's great. She's at that level right now that she gets some of the negative side of it too. And she's probably never talked about that. Nobody has any idea how hard it is to handle some of that stuff. But she's handled it with such grace. She's given back to be the greatest ambassador for our program you could ever ask for. And like I said, now we got security detail for 2 of our best players, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We don't have security detail yet here at Spider Sound Off. We haven't got to that level.
This is my security guy right here.
That's right.
Which just generally means I'm not in a good place if we get attacked.
Yeah, that's right. Anyway, before we get to the A-10 tournament, obviously we want to focus on that. I'm curious on just like your philosophy with team building. Like you've got a big recruiting freshman class coming in. There's the portal, obviously. Like how do you balance all of that out? Kind of when does the portal work really begin? I mean, I know we've heard plenty of like it's year round, but just how do you do that balance of like how the freshman side versus kind of how do you leverage the portal?
I mean, the portal probably is on people's minds, and every once in a while you're getting stuff on it, and I don't know if this means we're not doing our job well, but we really try, especially me, to just not think about that, especially this time of year. Like my staff knows that, we all have recruiting responsibilities. We all have this. My absolute, without a close doubt, my main focus is our team and our players, and that's not superficial. That's not like, hey, that means that they'll come back. Like I just feel in my job, you got to be in the present. You have to take care of your kids. And that's what I enjoy. Like, yes, I realize that we need to get more of these players, need to find the next Maggie, the next Rachel, all of that sort of stuff. But I just feel like you have to enjoy your current players. You have to, otherwise this job can suck. And you hear people talking about how hard this job is. It is really hard. There's a lot of things that, you didn't sign up for, but you still get to coach an awesome group of 14 young women. You still get to work with a great staff. You have to enjoy that part. And I think me as the head coach, I have to have more than, if not all of my focus on our current team. So really tried to do that. But I also probably try to make this organic as well, especially with our players. We've all done, I don't want to say corny. That sounds, we'll do different events. I'll have them over to the house for dinner. But, other than the Spider Open, we did the Spider Trick Shot Challenge. What was that, like 3 weeks ago? For the first time, Coach won that one.
That
wasn't as
bonding
as I thought. Hey, I'll tell you what, I think they enjoy it a lot more when Coach isn't winning that.
Sure.
Maybe I took too much joy in that one. But just try to make this fun, try to make this enjoyable. And I think you need to make this player-led, especially this time of year.
Did you have to carry Ava in that competition? I know wasn't she your teammate?
It's a team game. It's a team game, guys. It's a team game. So there were plenty of eyes there. There's maybe some film. This was a team effort, and glad we can finally get our name engraved on that thing.
So Friday night, 7:30, first game. You got one of 3 possible opponents. I won't ask you to comment on those guys because, I mean, obviously they're all bring something to the table. Talk about this week of practice. How do you get ready for Friday night? Obviously for Spider fans, you got to show up in Henrico. It's a 20-minute drive, rep the red, make that place a red out. But tell us about practice this week. How does that look?
Yeah. Again, I think we have a mature team. This is not looking past anything. I think, we met between the bus and the plane on, I guess it's called the tarmac last night as a staff. And, when you have staff that kind of has focused on different opponents throughout the season, that sometimes works great. And me, when you're assigning that, you're spacing those out. Sometimes, that may mean that Ariel, I think has 3 really good teams and potential opponents. We kind of had to split some of that stuff up. So, obviously, LaSalle is the higher seed, so we got to make sure, Janine's got them. We just played them a couple weeks ago, right? You got St. Louis and Fordham as possibilities, so you have your prep for that. But I also feel like we'd be doing a disservice if we only focused on those teams right now. We have to understand that Friday night after that 7:30 game, if we're good enough and fortunate enough to advance, there's not much prep for that Saturday opponent.
Right.
So we will, focus on some other potential opponents. I am last night and today. We will do some things in practice on Monday and Tuesday for future opponents. And then, we're actually going to give them Wednesday off. I'm hoping that this is going to be a long weekend. We'll give the players Wednesday off, and then Thursday. The hard part is obviously we don't know who we're going to play until about 10 o'clock Thursday night. Right. So Thursday's practice, you're kind of prepping for maybe more than one team, or you're putting your eggs into one basket and then trying to figure that out on the back end. But we will, and this is where our players' maturity and will come into play here, that yep, we're working on some teams that it's not, quote, the sole focus of the next game, which is different than the regular season with that.
Do you have coaches go Wednesday or Thursday to kind of watch the opponents live?
Yep, we'll have somebody over there on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, to be honest with you, again, the 7:30 start, we will practice here Thursday. We'll get a meal. We're going to stay downtown this weekend. The bus will go to Henrico on Thursday night for that 7:30 game. They'll at least stay for some of it. Staff, I'm sure, will stay for all of it. We'll get everything in a row and get ready for Friday. We'll come back here and do a shoot around here on Friday. The unique thing, and this is something I haven't really talked with all of our players about yet, is that 7:30 game on Friday, can be really tricky and unique, right? We're the 10th game of the tournament on Friday night. So when we play Friday, 9 of the other teams are at home.
Yeah.
We're one of 5 teams that are left. And so all of a sudden at 7:30, like, it's really go time. And if you're fortunate enough to win, you're playing right away again at 1:30 the next day.
Yeah, you get
so
a quick
in
turn
like
for
an
Saturday.
18 to 20 hour window, you're figuring out, are you in the championship game or you're not in the championship game? So you really kind of have to build it for that, but you also have to have some things prepped for that 1:30 opponent.
How does the last? I mean, 2 seasons ago you win it. Last year you had got upset in the semis. Like, how does that change anything that you're doing or the team is? Obviously, you've got players who have played in those games. Anything different, or it's kind of business as usual in terms of attacking the tough tournament?
Again, other than the scheduling that we just talked about, right? When you at 11 a.m., you kind of have a full day before the next day at 11 a.m. That can be good and that can be bad. I think obviously being the 1 seed, it has some advantages. It has some disadvantages. The 3 seed has some disadvantages with the quick turnaround, but it also, when you look at the path, it's not the worst thing in the world. So other than scheduling, I think we can learn with some confidence of how we've handled the weeks. Wednesday's not a normal off day 2 days before a game on a Friday, but you also know from 2 years ago that those 3 games can be long. It can be a long day there. So you kind of have to shorten the week a little bit. We've had a tough stretch the last 2 weeks as well. So there's got to be some rest and freshness going in for our players. But yeah, I think there's some confidence right now in the fact that we've been through this. I think there's also the flip side of that is we have anger is maybe too strong of a word, but maybe it's not too strong of a word of how last year ended. I think there's some internal drive that we have, but there's also some confidence to know that our prep, our experience has been there and done that.
And you don't mind that bad taste in your mouth, right? Like at some point you don't want to get that to get you out of sorts, but having a little chip on the shoulder never seems to hurt in sports.
Yeah, and there's some of that from last year, and there's some of it from this year. To be honest with you, I mean, I don't think that's completely gone away this year from some things.
Well, I think if you are lucky enough to get through Friday night, it looks like it could be a looming third rematch with George Mason on Saturday at 1:30. They're an awful physical team inside. They really do put a beating on the teams that they play. Hopefully you can get on to a lead in that first Friday night game so you can rest some of your core players, because that would be a really physical affair if that's how it matches, if that's how the seeding matches up goes, or if I can
for sure. And I think weirdly, it's also like that'd be the 4th time that we've prepared for George Mason. We prepared everything for George Mason in January. That game got moved.
That's right.
So, it's a team that we know well, but yeah, the physicality that they play with and just a really, really good staff that prepares really well. I mean, we have really good coaches in this league, but I think, what Vanessa's done up there and flipping that thing around has been very impressive, but they're always a tough preparation. They're going to be very well prepared for you as well.
I think it's going to be like mid 60s or 70s this weekend, so I think you'll be okay with getting this game in. I don't think we'll have any wet weather difficulties this time around.
Trying to poke the bear a little bit, brother. You're trying to poke the bear a little bit. But again, it's great weather and great golf weather. It's going to be great golf weather for the next 5 months here, guys. So there are no excuses. We got to get ourselves a crowd. And honest to God, man, I've said this 2 years ago when we walked out for the 11 a.m. game, the first ever game at Henrico at 11 a.m. The crowd was awesome. Seeing the red, that's still a goosebump moment for me. We got to get a crowd there. It's Friday night.
I'll put a bug out there for Spider fandom. So it's a much smaller venue than the Robins Center, and all of the teams that play in this travel really well. You'll see big fan bases for each team, but there's something to be said, for a Richmond game at Henrico Center when there's that many red jerseys or shirts or sweatshirts in the audience. It can be a really special moment for the team, for the energy level, and the place is just a really good venue for basketball. So come on out and support the ladies Friday night, hopefully into Saturday and maybe even Sunday at 4:00 if we're lucky. I think, Coach, we really appreciate you coming on. We know this is going to be a busy week of preparation for you. Again, second time we've got a chance to talk to you this year. We love what you're doing. 25 wins, 37 in the net, firmly on the at-large bubble right now. So.
And I hope you have no time for golf until April.
That's exactly. And you know what? The weird thing is April's now just an incredibly busy month for us as well in this profession. But we'll get that vitamin D in different ways, and we'll find different ways out there. But like you guys said, man, first and foremost, I promise you'll have a great time this weekend. It's a great venue, Porter, as you just said. Awesome atmosphere, but we got to get this thing rocking, man. Like our players, I hate to say this, but our players do deserve this. But more for you guys' end, for fans' end, you will have a great time. You might even need to get there early on Friday night during that George Mason game.
We're actually media for this, so we've got media passes. So I think we can get in at any time.
And just
for
the fans
non-VIP folks out there, get there early, because I do think it's
and not for us media, but for the fans who haven't been there, there is a bar.
There's there.
At the arena, so there's an opportunity. There's a good snack bar and a regular bar. So
it is a super fun time.
Yeah, and it's a Friday night. I'm sure that they'll get this out, but I think there's a Buffalo Wild Wings around the corner that I believe there might be a pregame event there for maybe. I don't know, for potentially all games, but hopefully we're all putting the vibe out there for hopefully a celebration on Sunday at either BW. I think there's a Plaza Azteca around the corner that we've already kind of had our eyes on. First and foremost, we need to play well. We need to have a good week of prep. We need to get some Spider fans out there and have a party all weekend up in Henrico.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
Coach, we really appreciate your time today. Good luck with practice this week. Good luck Friday night, and we hope to talk to you soon.
You guys are the best. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.